Hey YouTube, so here's where I stand so far. If you remember on my last video, I had taken off the radiator core support, or the radiator support. I don't know why I say core, but anyway, you can see I cleaned everything up. I power washed it all off. I'm a little cramped in my garage at the moment because it's very cold out this morning. It's in the low 30s, 20s. So I wanted to show you what I did so far. These brackets that hold that radiator support actually look like this. This is what the one on the passenger side looked like. So there was enough of it there to actually make a good pattern from it, because you can see the curvature and stuff of how it went together and all. Now these are welded as well as bolted, so they sit like this. They're welded in 4 places all around, and I cut the welds off with a 4-inch disc grinder. I used a thin blade. That's the heavy blade on there now. And then there's bolts that go through that bracket, through the back of it, and actually hold on to this thing. So this was inside there, and then there's nuts welded onto that, thank God, so I didn't have to screw around trying to hold them. But anyway, I took the bolts out and cut the mount off. So then what I did was I used that one to make 2 new ones. So this is what I had, and now you see what I got. Now I'm not done grinding these, I just finished welding them, tacking them on the inside and all. They're strong and they'll be fine. I want to paint them after I get them mounted, although I'd like to paint the back here with some etching primer at least before I put them on. So one of them will go on each side, and it's obvious that this one has to come off yet. I haven't gotten that one off. Wasn't in a hurry to get it off, because once I took the other one off, these things are a duplicate of one another. You just turn them around to fit over there on the opposite side. Even the bolt holes are made to, you know, this is where it bolts against the frame. Let's see. Oh, this is where the side bracket for the bumper bolts. So I just have to drill them out. I want to grind them off first. I ran out of welding wire, so I had to go get some welding wire. While I was out today, I picked up some tie rod ends, because I want to replace them, and boy, it couldn't be any easier to get at than it is right now, although I want to take the tire off yet. So I'm going to replace that. I have the radiator support in here heating up. I've got a good fire going today, and it's nice and warm in here. So what I want to do is I wash this down. I not sandblasted it, but I power washed it. So I just got to wipe off some of the stuff that was from the cleaner, and then I'm going to spray that with etching primer and spray it, or spray it grape with the gray paint like the frame. I did replace this one bracket. This one's good. This one is, what's amazing, it's hollow inside. It's a hollow tube, so it's pretty weak. But I had a solid rod, so I just cut holes, filled holes, flattened out the one side, and put that in place. So other than that, the rest of it's pretty good. There's a little bit of rust on it, but it's insignificant. This is where it mounts onto the cushions. So this is what they look like. It's a pretty shot. I did manage to get a measurement from the good thing is both of these brackets, or not brackets, but what would you call those? These plates that hold the rubber in place on the mount were good. So what I did then was I came over to the lathe and I started cutting the bushings for this. Now I just put that one in there. I started with it. I'm not finished, but this one is finished. So you can see that what will happen here is that fits on there very nicely, and I got to make the bottoms for them this goes on top of that bracket I made. I'll be drilling a hole through the bracket to this diameter of this lower section, and that'll keep the thing locked in place. So even though this hole is gigantic, there was a small hole in there at one time. So I'll be drilling a hole in these new ones. I want to mount them first, and I'll drill the top holes last, because I'll get a measurement from the radiator support and make sure I'm in the center of the truck. As far as the forward goes, I'm just going to go towards center of what I have here, and I know that that'll be close enough. When you're doing body work, you can shim fenders and things if you have to. I'm not looking to have to shim much, but that's how that'll work. So I got to make the bottom parts of these that go underneath. I should have picked up some new bolts today, because I actually had to cut the bolts out because they wouldn't come out. So that's where I stand so far now with these. So after I get them ground down nice and primered, I'm gonna primer the radiator support, and I gotta grind this weld off of here yet. You can see there's where the old bead was, has to come off so it's nice and smooth, and then I'll drill those holes. And I gotta take this one off yet and cut that off and grind it down. This way here it'll finish up the frame being painted gray, because that stuff was sort of hid underneath that radiator support. So I'm going to spray whatever I can spray here, since I have already washed everything off. And I should be in pretty good shape with that. I figured that while I have it apart, I may as well go ahead and replace the hoses and all. Although this hose doesn't look like it's that old, because the paper's still on it. But I think I'll replace all the hoses and belt, like I had said. I didn't buy it yet because I want to take the stuff with me. It doesn't seem like I can ever get the right things that I need when I just go to the store and ask for it. So I'm going to go to Napa with, I'll take all the hoses and belt with me, and then they can match them up. So anyway, that's where I'm at so far. The way I made these, in case you're wondering, it's not really a big deal. I actually took the old one. Okay, let's say you have a piece of metal laying down that's big enough to accommodate this. What I did was I took and set that on the metal, basically marked off, and then I figured the width of this and stretched that out a little bit. So I had a piece that mimicked this side. And then all I did was roll it and put it on the opposite side. Okay, so once I did that, I marked that all off. Now if you've watched my video, you've seen me use tape to make these. You can do it either way, but I rolled it on there. So what I ended up was, I have a weld on one end where they came together, and the other side is just rolled around. Now I did split them, the two sides, but I welded them together there. I rounded them on the anvil, welded them together, and they're a nice match. They came out pretty nice. All I got to do, like I say, is grind them off. So I'm going to do that now. But anyway, then I rolled it on the metal, I cut the metal out, you know, ground it off a little bit, did the welding to the bottom piece, that's this and the back and all in here. And then what I did was I just took it and laid it upside down on a piece of flat steel. Marked that pattern off again all around, cut that out, then laid it on top here and just tacked it in place on the inside, and then hard welded the outside all around. And then I just made a second one. So when these are all ground down and in place and all, I'll show you another view of this. When I was looking at the radiator here, I see I don't know if there was a leak there because of the color. I'm a little leery. It could have been from dripping, but there's definitely a leak there. You can see there's a crack in that. So I haven't really checked it. I'm hoping it's brass. If it's brass, I can solder it. If it's, I don't think it's aluminum. So it looks like it's brass with the green. So I'm going to be soldering that before I put it back into place. And I did take that radiator support, or the transmission cooler off of the radiator for the coolant, and I'm going to discard the coolant radiator, but I'll make a new bracket for the transmission cooler. I'll show you that when I'm finished then. Okay guys, have a good one. That's where I'm at so far. I can't wait to get the doors painted yet. Once I get this radiator support back on and I have the truck all together, I want to make sure I can start it, get all the wires hooked up, start it, and then I'll pull it out of here, and then I'll do the doors quick. I gotta lower my paint booth plastic so I don't get overspray all over everything, and I'll spray them and put them on. I'm thinking I'm gonna have to make some new bushings. I have some brass rod there in my stock so I can cut new bushings, and if I have to, I'll cut new pins, see what they look like, because this one door used to sag like crazy when I'd go to close it on the driver's side. So I'll let you know what I'm doing. Have a good one. Bye.